Welcome to the Swinging Lights, a podcasting band. In this episode, Chris and I discuss truth and lies and the importance of being honest, mushroom trips, hungry ghosts, competing in men's physique, phony live musical performances, and a bunch of other silly shit. Hope you enjoy. All right, Chris. This is Chris.
That's me.
I'm Justin.
That's you.
What the hell are we going to talk about today, man?
The truth.
The what?
The truth.
What do you mean, the truth?
Well, we need to talk about the truth.
All right, let's talk about it. You feel like people have been lying to you a lot lately? People have been pulling the wool over your eyes? You've been falling for fake news? What's going on?
There's all sorts of conspiracies, and I've gotten to the bottom of them.
You got to the bottom of all of them?
Yeah.
Or just some?
No, I know the truth of all of them. No, I'm talking about the truth. I mean, the concept. The truth. The truth as an idea about being truthful, right?
Like, don't tell lies?
Well, that's one kind of truth. And then there's another truth of
Come on, man. Today, Junior.
but you got like the lies of omission and commission, you know what I mean? Like,
explain that to me.
the commission is a truth where you're telling a lie, and omission is a truth that you're just avoiding being honest about.
So if a woman comes up to you and says, does this dress make me look fat? And it does. And you're like, nope.
Yeah.
That's not a lie.
No, nope is a commission.
Because you are straight up lying.
An omission is, whoa, is that a bear out there? You know what I mean? Like, you look outside the window and you dodge
I see
it.
what you're
You know
saying.
what I mean? That's dodging it. But there's some other stuff too. But I was just thinking about the truth, and we just barely landed on that subject. But I knew it'd be a type of subject that could break out. But I was thinking about everybody tells a lie, right?
Yep.
Are you ready to be truthful?
Yep.
When's the last time you told a lie?
Oh, I probably lie every day.
Yeah, but what's the last one?
Let me think for a second.
Or didn't.
God,
by omission or commission. Like, what if it was something you got confronted with and you kind of just weaseled out of it?
No, I think all my lies are more like small ones, you know? Like,
Sure.
I have a tough time sometimes when people say, hey, man, you want to come over? And I really don't want to hang out, you know? I'm tired, whatever. I may be like, oh, I've got something else going on when I really don't.
Uh-huh.
But I kind of do because it's... Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But a few years ago, I kind of decided to be more honest about everything, even like the darkest parts of my being that I'm the most ashamed of. Like, I'm pretty open and honest about those things. So my lies mostly consist of not hurting people's feelings by being 100% honest, if that makes sense.
Have you found yourself at any point recently telling something that wasn't exactly true about you, and you
like
didn't
exaggerating the truth?
Yeah, I guess so. Anything that just after you said it, like, that wasn't exactly true, but I said it, you know.
Oh, who the hell knows? I mean, I think if I'm going to be honest, I think I've villainized my ex-wife a bit more than she really was, but she was bad. If that makes sense.
No, of course. I mean, I have an ex-wife too.
Like,
for sure.
usually when I get in conversations about going through a divorce and my ex-wife and some of the shenanigans that have transpired since those days, I tend to not be 100% open about my part all the time. But I've told people straight up, like, this was my fault in the marriage. This is what I did. But I don't necessarily hang on to that as much as I just hang on to the fact that she's kind of not very nice.
But a little bit of your part you can't fully be aware of too. But then some of it you can be aware of, and then sometimes you won't be honest about it. But maybe there's also something in the area of what you're lying about and what you're not aware of, that if you got more honest about what you're lying about, you'd become more aware of the parts that you're not really aware of, maybe.
Whoa, dude. You just melted my face.
Right. Yeah. Or maybe that's bullcrap.
I honestly think that I lie to myself more than I lie to other people.
But do those lies come out of your mouth? Because if you lie to yourself, sooner or later that lie comes out of your mouth. Oh, well, here's
I think my lies to myself are more like, oh, that's not that big of a deal, and it is.
But there's some lies that are just.
Or sometimes it's
maybe
like
you kind of have a
can't
half
do that.
intention to really do a thing, but you kind of also know that you're kind of not going to do a thing.
Like, give me an example.
Well, I've lied a lot about I'm starting a diet now, and it didn't start now. You know,
right?
And that's a lie because some of them were lies, some of them weren't lies. Some of them I really did it, but some of them.
Why would
some
you
of them I meant to do it.
Why would you lie to yourself about that, though?
Some of them I meant to do it. Like I meant to really start the diet. And sometimes I knew coming out of my mouth, it was like, I'm not starting today. You know what I mean? Like
right.
it's starting next week or whatever. And I remember that concept smacked me in the face on a mushroom trip one time. And
what is that?
It's if you go to McDonald's and get a mushroom burger and just eat one of the mushrooms off there,
go to Toontown.
Weird things.
You go to Toontown.
Yeah, so don't go to McDonald's. But we're talking about totally kosher.
So you went on a mushroom trip, and what happened?
Well,
did you take a hero dose?
No, this is just a normal one. I've only done hero dose once, and that's different dimension weirdo stuff. You know what I mean? But this is like, yeah, you're fully aware of it. But like a lot of people will go look in the mirror for a while and like kind of see how your face is wobbling around and that sort of thing and trip on it. And I was doing that, and in that moment, one of the things about me is past several years I've sometimes gotten crazy into fitness and competed like at a local level, and I've also had times where I go completely the other direction. But that only really started 5 years ago.
Yes,
it was after a mushroom trip. You know what I mean? And
oh, really?
Yeah,
I did not know that part.
Well, it's actually in some of our songs. It's in
You've been holding back.
It's in Gods of Chaos.
Oh, so you're just testing me to see if I can figure out the other parts about your being from songs
if
instead of having conversations.
I think we got to end the band.
I'm out. I can't put up with the drama. I can't put up with the riddles. You're speaking in riddles, man.
If you don't know me by now, you never will.
You may never, ever, ever know.
That's the wrong
me.
song. I just quoted one of Justin's lines too. But, yeah, the Gods of Chaos was, I looked in the mirror, saw a friendly ghost. You know, that, on a friendly ghost. I accidentally say that sometimes.
Casper?
I make that mistake singing it live sometimes too.
Shit.
It's a hungry ghost. Hungry
ghost.
Hungry ghost is a term from, Taoism, I think it is, or Buddhism and Taoism, and that's a person who you kind of see them like, sometimes it's a concept of a dead person already, but they're roaming around the earth and they're unable to be fulfilled because everything they have an unquenching thirst, but they're still hungry because the stuff they're chasing isn't fulfilling them. You know what I mean?
So kind of like on the movie Ghost, where that guy wants a cigarette real bad.
That one's a little bit, but the Hungry Ghost concept's more.
Not that I've ever seen that movie.
Yes, you have.
Not that I got into pottery after I saw that movie.
We watched it last night, and you and your wife were watching it on Valentine's Day. But
every Valentine's Day.
Yeah. How else you get some?
That's the only time. It happens.
I know Kate won't warm up to you until she sees some ghost.
No.
Anyway.
That's weird. All right, so anyway,
have you watched?
Oh, continue.
Wait. Before I lose this, we'll come back to it. Have you seen that? We talked about A Ghost Story. That Casey
No, I
Affleck
haven't seen
movie?
it yet. I forgot.
Man, that's kind of like Ghost, but a different thing. Anyway,
It's good.
it's good. It's weird.
It's called A Ghost Story.
Yeah, and I just recommended it to another friend. He didn't like it because it's not like you'd think it would be. It's really slow, but I might sum it up for you. Not just
No. I'm gonna watch it.
Well,
We'll talk about it next time.
okay.
Okay, so go back. So you had this mushroom trip. You looked in the mirror.
I realized looking in that mirror that I had been like doing this internal lie to myself, and the internal part was lying to me, almost like a separate voice. But I mean, it'd been going for years. I had been a fairly big fitness freak when I was much younger. Then I did the whole thing of going through my whole 20s and getting married and falling out of shape, and then years after that just kind of saying, I'll do it, I'm getting back in, and I worked out a little bit. I'm not saying I was just completely lazy, but I always meant to go a bit more hardcore. And then just during that trip I realized that it was this kind of continual internal lie. I was telling myself, I'm going to start now, I'm going to start tomorrow, and like I just confronted it and said, stop it. I want that voice to stop, and I want me to stop lying about this, and just because it felt like a lie, like you're walking around thinking like, well, I'm just an in shape person who's not currently in shape. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
which is total bullshit.
Yeah. So I went into it, and I've gone through the whole cycle several times now. I've gotten on stage a bunch of times, but it's an unending thing. As Joe Rogan calls it, he says, building a body like that's like building a sandcastle. You know what I mean? You can't keep it. You know, it comes and goes and comes and goes, and
it's a great analogy.
Yeah, and so you kind of have to rehab that moment again all the time. Like, okay, I gotta get serious now and buckle down now because the holidays are just over, and you can get right back into the same lie, a lie that you already confronted and took care of many times, and now you're right back at it. Like,
so why do you think it always comes back up? I mean, is it just something inside of you it's just your battle?
Well, that's my battle, but it's an endless cycle. But I could stop lying about it, like in the sense of both when I'm not getting in shape, like when I'm just taking a little bit of time off, because I always stay working out. It's just my diet comes and goes. But whenever I'm off the diet, I'm just constantly, I'm getting back on tomorrow. I'm getting back on tomorrow. You know, and it's just kind of like this endless lie.
You just lie to yourself for days.
I should just stop lying about that and be like, I'm not dieting right now. I'm not going to do it. Yeah, like later. And then the moment that it's time to start, be honest and say, okay, now's the time to start and really do it.
Right. So the unhappiness comes from lying to yourself and knowing you're lying to yourself instead of just being honest. Like, I'm going to diet right now,
not diet. Yeah.
And I'm not going to feel bad about it. I'm going to take some time off from dieting. And then when it's diet time, be honest. Like, it starts today.
Absolutely.
So a lot of happiness and unhappiness, if not all of it, kind of comes from within. I mean, obviously there's people and situations, they're tethered to shitty people and under a lot of stress, and there's a lot of outside environmental factors that maybe just cause them to delve into chaos so much that they can't climb out. They're just going to be unhappy no matter what. But a lot of it is just being honest with yourself, honest about each situation you're in, where you're at, what you're doing. Because lying to yourself and lying to others ultimately makes you unhappy, right? Or makes you feel miserable about yourself if you're honest with yourself in any way, shape, or form.
Well, just to keep going on the diet thing, because I didn't even know this was going to go into diet stuff, but that's the thing I thought of where I've been lying, but I've lied in other areas too to myself. But in other ways too, there's a lot of forms of telling the truth and a lot of forms of lying. Maybe we'll go into all of them, but every time I've gotten on stage and they body fat test me and all that sort of stuff, and I've gotten on stage with sub 4% body fat. That's talking with pinchers, because nobody gets 4% body fat for real.
And like a fake tan.
Yeah.
That your grandma would be like jealous of.
Right.
Your grandma that lives down south and just sits in the sun.
What?
All withered up and orange, like real bronzish. No, you don't look real when you're on stage posing, because they bronze you up to like a ridiculous
that's a lie
fucking
too.
level.
That's a whole different lie too. That's a different lie. But what I'm saying is, in those moments that I get on the stage, like I've had years of being much heavier. My last show, at one point in my life, I was 100 pounds heavier than that. And what I thought about when I was on that show is like how much I'm there on the stage, and I remember how many little pieces of junk food that I just didn't really enjoy, because I thought they were just forever ruining me, you know what I mean, in some sort of way. And then if I'm there on the stage, they didn't, so why didn't I just enjoy them when I ate them? You know what I mean?
Right.
Instead of
So there's a lesson there.
Yeah.
Like, when you do fuck up, or when you're doing something you shouldn't be doing, you should at least enjoy it.
Yeah. Because so many times, especially when I get in shape, like anybody around me who's at work or something eating junk food, they'll almost like apologize to me, like I'm gonna start tomorrow. I'm like, don't say that. Just enjoy. The worst thing.
That's annoying when people do that. Why do people fucking do that? Then it's
also, you're not enjoying that dumb donut that you're about to eat right now. So not only is it bad for you, because it's bad for you,
bad for you physically,
but at the same time, you're making it.
It's bad mentally.
Yeah,
emotionally.
You're making it a bad thing. You're making it, But yeah. That's
hilarious.
Then the other lie of that too, that a lot of people, we've gone to that before, is just the lie of that those people on that stage can keep and maintain what they did to look like that at any.
Oh yeah, I didn't ever compete like that, but I stayed your friend. barely through that whole competition thing, because you're just starving yourself of calories and you're fucking ornery as shit. But there was some awesome lessons there. One of the big take-home messages that I remember from that whole situation is all those guys on those fitness magazines, when they're posing and they're all just shredded muscles coming out with all the bullshit, like, you could have abs like this if you just eat less peanut butter and do some fucking push-ups on your lunch break. That's bullshit. Those guys are, like, basically they've cut calories to the point where they're, sub 4% body fat, and they couldn't even, like, help a stranger if a stranger fell down, right? Like, you'd always joke around, like, if this building caught fire, I'd be the last one out, and I wouldn't be able to help anybody.
I'd need the grandma to carry me out.
But that was the take-home message to me, was like, these images that you see and how a man is supposed to look all the time is total bullshit.
Oh, yeah. And not just that, by the time they take the pictures, they've fasted down for months and months and months. They've starved themselves for months and months and months. And then they also do little tricks like dehydrating themselves. And then right before they take the picture, like drink some sort of wine or something, or take some little spike of a thing to make their blood veins stick out harder and that sort of stuff. And then the tanning and the lighting and all, it's like a ton of smoke screens.
Dude, can we talk smoke screens? Yeah. Yes, I like that. But I want you to tell the story about when they sprayed you.
Oh, God.
When you got your fake tan? That was so funny. Talk about that, please.
Well, I competed in a division where you wear board shorts. It's called men's physique. And so I never got into one of those little, what do you call them?
Those fake tanning salons, right? Like a tanning booth, but
I'm saying like the shorts. I never wore those. The Speedos,
the banana hammocks. Up the butt, over the nut.
Yeah,
what they call.
So guys who get that have to get sprayed naked, and.
So the guys that are competing bodybuilding in the Speedos, you got to be naked to get sprayed with your fake tan.
And I wasn't competing in that, and I went in and they thought I was, and they made me spray naked. and
I'm just imagining you standing there, no clothes on, Legs out. How many people were in there?
It was 3 women.
3 women.
Yeah.
Just spraying you down with a fake tan.
Yeah. Well,
and not erotic. You weren't like having.
I mean, they do it to people all day long and stuff, but
Yeah, but you weren't turned on at all. You were like so depleted.
I felt like I was outside of my body, like watching it. Like I felt like I was a lab experiment by that point, you know. I hate that spray tan so bad. God. It stinks. It's cold. You have to get. Then it's sticky, and then you have to have it on for like.
It doesn't wash off quickly.
It doesn't wash off quick, but before the show, you have to have it on for like 2 days, and then even get like different layers. Like you have to get like 3-4 layers of it sprayed on.
So what went through your mind when you were like, "Oh, I didn't have to get naked to be sprayed"? Like when that first
full
reality
cycle.
happened.
Oh, well, that was just funny, but the actual full cycle thing is like once I got finished spraying, I still have the picture somewhere. I looked in the mirror and saw another hungry ghost.
Really? Yeah. Oh, shit. Shit. Full circle, man.
Full circle,
Fucking A, 360.
I looked in the mirror and I saw a guy, and a lot of people joked because like my first competition, I buzzed my head all the way down and stuff, and I looked like a black guy, like straight up like a black dude, you know what I mean? And I looked in the mirror and I was like, that's not me either. You know what I mean? And
whoa. Yeah. That's got to be like, is that like existential crisis in that moment where you just like, Jesus Christ, like, fuck, man.
Well, there's been a lot of existential crisis through that, and I honestly didn't know that we're going like down this thing today, but because I want to get back just on other truths, but the song that we have on our next album, Gods of Chaos, is about that whole entire thing, you know. But there was also like a whole other. I had just like a weird feeling. Oh man! So one of the reasons that I did all that wasn't just the shroom trip. It was also because right around that time frame, most of my best friends got married, and I didn't. Like right in 6 months of each other, like. You, Kevin, James, Davey, all got like the people I spent the most time with. You know, it was all mostly musical stuff, but Ollie got married right at the same time, and
I didn't even think about that. And
I was cool because I didn't whine about it. I didn't complain. That's totally fine. But when one of your friends finds a woman, and guys should never get like upset about this, but you kind of got to say goodbye to them for about 6 months. You know, they have like a 6 month
they get those blinders on, like, oh, this girl likes me. She's going to give me some attention. Let me touch her boobs.
They come back unless they're like a complete, pussy whipper type. But
I've lost a lot of good men
to real deal stuff.
Being
like
married.
That.
And that's not, sometimes I'm like, dude, come on, man. And other times I'm like, whatever. You're choosing
I don't get
a different
upset
path.
at all. They all. I just know that like the cycle is like I give them 6-7 months, and unless they have a really mean wife or something who's not, and even
women, your husbands and boyfriends are gonna be way happier if they can have an outlet with some friends. It's very important to men.
Yeah.
If you want some like wussy, angry, resentful husband partner.
For sure.
Take him away from his friends.
But none of them. I mean, those were all those situations, and a couple. One of those guys is divorced now, but even that situation wasn't negative in that way. It was all fully like organic. Like these guys just got married and they're like in a honeymoon period. You know what I mean? And I didn't whine or complain about it. I was just that's how it's going. So, but what ended up happening is I ended up hanging out with some other friends that they're pretty resentful types, or at least at that point in time they were.
Yep.
And they were.
I know who you're referring to.
Yeah, and they were. I was hanging out with them a lot because kind of you get in your 30s and the unmarried people are. You're kind of. Well, I'll say the joke because I was also an unmarried person. We're the leftovers. You know what I mean? So I was hanging out with some people who were super smart and super resentful, and it got to me. It got to me to a point of like I went to the arts festival, and arts festival is a thing that you've played the arts festival. I haven't ever played the arts festival, but it's a thing that we've aspired to, and people do cool things there. People do paintings, they do pottery, they do all sorts of stuff. And I went there with them, and they had nothing but shit to talk about every single like booth we went to. You know what I mean?
Oh, they were just ripping on all the artists. And
but that's what they did at home too on TV. And like on TV, it's fine. It's TV. You know,
so they're just they just turn into resentful,
yeah,
shameful, and all they can do is rip on beauty because it makes them feel better in some way, shape, or form.
I think so. It's a resentfulness of
Is
knowing.
It like a jealousy thing?
It's knowing that you're not living up to your potential, for sure. Like, I think
so. Instead of like stepping up and being like, hey man, I'm going to start doing what I want to do and what I have to offer to the world, you just tear down the people that are actually doing it.
I think it's very common, especially for smart and potential-full 20-year-old men who are unsatisfied to become that type of resentful, just shit talker, just nothing but criticism for everything. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying I'm anti-criticism, and I criticize too, but like, you just know when it's like gotten to a level like nothing's gonna be okay, nothing's good, and I especially don't like doing it on a local scene. You know what I mean? Like, I'll talk shit to the national people making the big money or whatever. You know what I mean? But people just doing the thing that they like and getting some recognition for it in a local
and putting it all out there, and they're taking risks, and it's scary,
and they're good. Like nobody's, you go to arts festival, nobody there's bad. You know what I mean? They're doing decent stuff, and just the shit talk was, I suddenly like realized like I can't just be around these guys anymore, but I also need to do the opposite. I need to do something. Like, I need to just do something that even seems stupid to do, because they're so against doing anything. Anybody trying anything's an idiot,
Yeah, that's so weird. Like, why? Like, what? I mean, obviously they're getting something out of it.
Yeah,
but until you are willing to put out something that you've done and taken some risks that way, like what right do you have to like rip on other people? Does that make sense?
Well, they surely have a right, and to some extent, whenever you're an art person, like, if you're gonna get popular, some of what makes you money is people hating you. You know what I mean?
That's true.
Because they'll keep looking at you.
It's like the yin and the yang.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, at least they're paying attention to you. Well, because it's worse in art. It's worse to just not even be paid attention to.
Right. At all. We got one friend or a couple of friends that are kind of like this. They're musicians, and they never release anything. Well, because they've got songs that are always halfway written, never finish a song. Like, let me show you this song, and it's not done yet, and it's like they never finish it. And I almost think that's like some way to just never allow it to be judged for real, because it's never done.
Yeah, it's not ready to be
like
judged.
You can have criticism. Well, it's not done yet, right? But those types of people tend to be the ones that like rip on people trying stuff more than anybody else, right? Like we joke and we crack on stuff once in a while, but we're like musicians. We're in bands. We do stuff, and we can see like when somebody's being authentic or not authentic, and whether they're authentic or not, it doesn't really fucking matter, right? Like, everybody's just doing what they want to do. But for us watching bands, if they're not authentic, it just is like, when you're a musician, it's harder to just like step away and not think about like what's being done, what are you doing behind the scenes, it's. I don't know. Well, like, you're just a little more critical, but it's not like, fuck you, you suck, you shouldn't be, you know.
You need to be critical. Critical is part of it. And for sure, sometimes it's fun to hate on something shitty too. And that's fine. That's part of art. But I think if you get to a point where you can't ever say a good thing about anything, you've gone too far.
Right,
you know what I mean?
right.
But,
exactly. You're bitter.
Just our last episode, we were talking shit on other bands. I mean, I'm not against
I wasn't.
Shit.
You were.
That's true. But
I agreed.
Well, they were bands worth talking shit on. You know what I mean? Because I'll still talk shit on them right this moment, even though I'm saying shit talking is you take it too far, you're becoming.
But if you were to be face to face with one of them, would you just have like an honest, open conversation about it?
Well, what? Okay, but that's back to another truth thing. But like, what purpose would it serve to just like announce to somebody? Like, if they asked me,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, if they came up to you and like, hey man, you were talking about us on the podcast. What the fuck? Would you like pussyfoot back and be like, oh, I didn't mean that. I'm sorry. You're really cool. Or would you just be like, dude, you know I'm right?
I would stick.
Like, would you stick? Like, I think you are that type of person. Like, you wouldn't say it on this podcast if you wouldn't like say it to
I
their
wouldn't
face.
be an asshole and offer it up to him, you know.
No,
what I mean?
but if they came to you and was like calling you out and like wanting an apology or whatever, you would still stick to your guns.
Let's go. Who do we talk crap on? The Imagine Dragons and
you said a little bit about Neon Trees. It wasn't really bad, and you were just
we just kind of realized that we were talking about they were overproduced more than what they are actually playing, and I don't think they dare try to talk shit on us about that. You know, they're like, you know, they wouldn't, not that they'd ever even care or dare to do it, but in any of that, I'm not accusing them of not being able to play a song like a normal band. Right. We just don't know. You know, they don't do it. You know. Right. Except the Neon Trees, we know that they can because I think we saw them playing around locally before they went off to LA to get produced. You know? I was in a band that we thought we were really good and we weren't. But we played right before them at this like little festival in Sugar House, and I was impressed. That was like a stripped down version. The main singer, I forget his name. Tyler Glenn. Tyler Glenn. He was on stage and he was just behind this little teeny fucking like synthesizer keyboard, and was like a real band. There was no like backing tracks or anything, and I was sucked in. I was like, these guys are fucking good. So no but point in that am I saying Neon Trees is not good. I'm just saying what they put out is not what is being played on the stage, and they know that. Well, I haven't paid hard enough attention to them, but maybe they are. But I've only paid more attention to Imagine Dragons lately because my nephew's been wanting me to. But I'm sure Neon Trees can actually play just the four of them. Right. And just in my view, it should be just the four of them. Or if there is more music going on, that person should be on the stage, you know, and performing live. Well, I'm okay with a little bit of backing track stuff like Johnny Greenwood on he's there with the computer on the stage, you know. Right. They're not trying to pretend they're not using a computer. They're showing you, like, here it is. I'm going to push start. Yeah, and he still has to, like, select it and click it on things. And it's definitely not in every song either. No, absolutely not. Yeah, it's just an honesty. It's just an honesty to it. You know what I mean? And I don't like it when it's, like, even with Muse, those guys can play. We know they can play, but the sound you're hearing on stage isn't those three guys. Right. And I don't have a problem with like electronically created music. Like you listen to like Tame Impala. Not at all. Most of that is like created, recorded, and like programmed, you know, through software on a computer, right? And then you find a whole band and then you go try to perform it live. And I haven't seen Tame Impala live, so I don't know how they're pulling it off or anything, but I don't have a problem with creating music that way. No, not at all. But it's like when you try to create music that's digital and it's on like a, you know, like Reason or whatever software program you're using to create the whole song, and then you go try to do it live, but you don't do it live. You're using everything behind to make it sound exactly how it sounded there. Then what's the point of doing it live? Yeah, and that's what I agree with. And for sure, like if you go back to like Beastie Boys stuff, like if they were doing stuff like that, they had a DJ on the stage with them there. You know what I mean? And that's what I'm talking about. I think Incubus Deltron. I went and saw Deltron with Clay, and dude, they had Kid Koala. Oh, he's amazing. But, oh my God, dude! Fucking that's just it. Thank you, Clay, for getting me into Kid Koala and Deltron. That was a really fun show. That's my point, and I was kind of saying the same thing with Radiohead the other day. Is like put the people on the stage. You know what I mean? Then put the music makers on the stage, and if. But it's cheaper, man. Like if you don't have to do it, and you can make, and you're pulling the wool over on, and most people just don't even know, and they don't care, and they feel like they got what they paid for. We might be like the 1%ers, right? To me, that's like you and I, we might be the 1%ers. Like we want to see a live show because we want to fucking learn. Like that's our university. Like we show up to these live shows. That's how we learn. That's like the university. And when you see that people are faking everything, you're like, oh man, you just ripped me off. Well, I think going back to the start subject is that being a little bit untrue is weakness. You know, it's even if it's, but everybody does it. Everybody does it a little bit. So when you listen to Imagine Dragons and Coldplay, and I wouldn't put Neon Trees in this because I'm sure that they
can't really. But Coldplay's first 2-3 albums were fucking amazing.
I liked Coldplay back then, and I wish it stayed like that. But what I'm talking about now is with Coldplay and Imagine Dragons is that if you took away the backing track, like would a song be there? There wouldn't even be a song. There wouldn't be a song there. Like the guitar's doing like a me, you know, it's just squeaking in around the backing track, you know, and the drummer seems to be playing along. It seems like they're playing along, but you can even tell if you watch them that they're not really hitting that hard because they know that, you know, they're being drowned out by some beats from the backing track electronics of the thing. And I know some of that is because to fill up big stadium noises and keep kids entertained nowadays, you kind of got to have more electronic beats and all that sort of stuff. But I bet you I remember when I was watching the Super Bowl, which the Super Bowl is going on right now, you asshole. You brought me up to...
My neighbors are watching it. We can go over right after this. They invited us, so we can go.
I don't give a crap. I have before, but this year I'm so sick of watching the Patriots and Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. I don't care. But
are you being honest?
That's honest.
How dare you?
Yeah. What I'm just saying is, so the Coldplay played the Super Bowl. So did the Chili Peppers, and the Chili Peppers weren't live. But if the Chili Peppers went live, they'd sound like the Chili Peppers.
Fuck yeah, they would.
But the Coldplay...
And they came out and announced that they weren't plugged in. Like, they were honest about it.
The Coldplay guys, like, if you left them with just those 3 guys to play, because there's 4 guys, one singing... I think he could really sing if
he absolutely can.
But if it was just those 3 guys left to cover that show and they didn't have the backing track, it would be a nightmare. It would be such I would pay big money to hear that happen. Just have the backing track cut, and now we just have to listen to them play these songs without the backing track help. It would be, and I think watching Imagine Dragons live, it's the same thing. You know, those 3 guys playing.
I don't really know much about Imagine Dragons other than that one song that my daughter always listens to. Radioactive. You know, just I'm like, ugh.
That's
all I really
I didn't know much of them until I looked hard into them for my nephew, and I hadn't watched a concert like that in years since. Because we used to kind of watch like the post-punk scene a lot, like 7-8 years ago. We were in a band that our guy tried to put a backing track on us and all that stuff, and that's one of the reasons why we hate it so much. But I used to watch bands like that just to watch it and just be like, well, I guess me being a little bit of a hater at that time and just being like, this is not a live show to me. This isn't a concert. Well, to me, it's not a concert.
If you think about music, there's like a spectrum of music of how you absorb music, right? So there's the least expensive, the most convenient, and it goes up to the most expensive and the most inconvenient. So staying at home, listening to Spotify, you're listening to a suboptimal like audio output, right? It's like MP3s. And it's like $8 a month, and you can listen to as much music as you want. Everything is fucking there. That is like the least expensive and the most convenient way to experience music. Along the way, you got tapes, you got fucking 8-tracks, you got DVD or CDs, you've got records. Each one of those, you know, has a different price value and a convenience to it, right? So having a hard copy and loading it and hit and play, all that is like less convenient than listening to Spotify. Listening to records, if you own records, it's expensive. Like having a record collection is expensive. It's hard to move around, but you know it's a different way to experience music. But the live show is the most expensive and the most inconvenient way to experience music. And if you show up to that venue and all you're doing is listening to the album as it was recorded on a CD, what a waste of fucking money. What a waste of time.
Yeah.
If you're not seeing a live performance, what a fucking waste. You should have just stayed home and listened to it and watched it on YouTube, because who the fuck cares? So when I go to a live show, I want to be like blown away by a live show. I saw local natives at Kilby Court, which is this little all-age venue garage. This is like before the band got big and everything else, and those fucking dudes were pulling everything off live. Their fucking harmonies, like 3-4 part harmonies, were fucking live. There was 50 to 80 people, maybe 100 tops, standing right there. You can't fake that shit.
And we saw them live at a stadium, and it wasn't so good because we could hear parts of it missing because it was something was mic'd wrong or something. But
they did a really shitty job on their sound.
Yeah, but that's also tells you that they're really
playing. But it was a stadium.
Yeah, well, it also
so
tells
they
you that
might have
really
needed to do all this other shit to sound big in a stadium.
But then
who knows?
After that, we watched
Arcade Fire,
and you watch Arcade Fire, and they got 9 people out on the stage, and so all that sound makes sense. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so it's just like a bit of a dishonesty, but you can add a little bit of something to a live show that's not fully live, of saying that, well, stadium speakers are bigger and louder, and you're in an environment with other people, so it's like a get together or something. But I 100% agree that, like most bands, the only band that I try to see, if I'll kill myself to see him any chance I can see him, is the 2 of them are Wilco and Radiohead. Not to go back to them, there would be other bands, but they aren't alive anymore. But and one of the reasons why is because I kind of have a feeling like if you're going to watch Wilco, you're seeing Nels Cline play that guitar. You're seeing a unique performance by Nels Cline, by a guy who's someday going to be dead, and when he's dead, you can't see that again. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's not true. Coldplay, you could put 4 other guys up there to run.
You're just letting it fly, man.
Yeah, but it's
no
just
shame.
true. I mean, maybe Chris Martin.
You just lost a lot of listeners, man. A lot of listeners are like, "Fuck you, man."
Well,
Coldplay's the shiz.
But in the end, like, I'll back off and say, like, as a produced album, which they're produced by Brian Eno, right?
Yeah, some of their stuff. I don't know if
the
all
production,
of their
the producing is something I can't do. That's a talent I don't have. And
right,
it's good. And it's
what's the lead singer's name? Chris
Martin, and he's a good singer, and for sure.
And he's a good songwriter. Have you seen him just sit there and play piano and sing? Like, he's fucking good.
Yeah, and they were good back when they were natural too, you know what I mean? And the only reason you get to a level where Brian Eno will then come and the only way you get to a level where Brian Eno will come and overproduce you is if you've already proven yourself in a way, you know what I mean?
Right.
But the post production stuff of all that is just, you know, it's meh. You know? But unfortunately, to so many people, that's like, oh, that's when they got good, you know. But for sure, I don't have that production talent, and that's a talent, and making those songs is a talent. I'm not talking shit on the actual songs and the recording.
No, I know.
We're talking about live performance, you know. Even with Imagine Dragons or Neon Trees, we're talking about
the live show.
It's all been about live. We haven't talked shit on the actual songwriting and producing. In fact, we haven't.
I think a lot of music gets overproduced. Like I really enjoy like the organic, just grittiness of songs that aren't really overproduced, man. Because like I think therefore I am. No,
Descartes.
I just think that like there's certain things that are just going on in the background that you're not really aware of, like tones and static and just like white noise, right? And when that stuff's all gone, like I don't know, man.
This is one of the things
you notice that it's not gone, but you don't necessarily know that that's what it is.
I've been playing the guitar now 25 years ish or something, and I remember when I got into guitars, because just like my nephew, I was crazy about these bands and all that sort of stuff. And I remember first getting into it, you didn't know how to separate what the sounds you were hearing that you were listening to. And I sometimes like wish I could go back to that to remember, like,
because now you can hear everything individually.
You can, until you get to one of those hyper produced songs, and that's one of the things that maybe frustrates me a little bit, or
you don't know what instrument's making that noise.
Yeah, well, so much of it's electronic anyway. But beyond that what you're saying is, like, you also know there's noise in here that's more than you can decipher right now, unless you got into producing and figured out their tricks. You know what I mean? But you're listening to those overproduced songs, and you're like, first off, I can't sort out all the different sounds and instruments that are there. And second off, I also kind of think there's extra sounds that I'm not even able to like point at right this moment. Right. Like, I'd have to go put it on a computer and break down all the sounds that are coming here. Right. And there's for sure that going on in those songs, and I don't like being able to not pick out like all of the little different things. But
you're like a dog that hates the mailman.
A little bit. But
yeah, I told you about this before, right? My dog Harley, she fucking hated the mailman. Like, a woman could come by the front yard with a stroller and her kid, my dog would just sit there, wouldn't bark, nothing. Mailman comes up, and I'm just like, and one day I asked the mailman, I was like, look, man, I always thought this was kind of a joke from cartoons, like old Warner Brothers shit and stuff, like, but my dog does not like you. Why? He's like, listen, man, I was like real self-conscious about this because it was just like everywhere. So I went to a veterinarian, and I don't know if this is true or not. I've never actually like fact-checked this, but this is what a legitimate freaking postman, door-to-door, walking, delivering mail postman told me. I finally went to a veterinarian. I asked them, and they said, look, dogs experience the world through their sense of smell. On the same level that you experience the world through your sense of vision.
I've heard that.
Okay. And each human has an individual sense, like a smell to them. So the dogs more identify with you. Like, their vision's real. It's just not as defined. Like, they would know you by smelling you before they even saw you.
Just inverse our eyes and noses. Like, we get some smells.
Right.
But we're not identifying people by smells.
So he's like, when I walk up with the mail, and the mail has gone through and touched a lot of humans, like, it has a lot of human smells on it. So the dog doesn't know what the fuck he is. That's crazy. See him walk up, they with their like mild vision, like our smell, but they're smelling, like seeing him. It's like knowing your wife or your girlfriend or your friends coming up by seeing him, but they smell like 5,000 things that you can't even comprehend. And so the dog does not like the mailman because it doesn't know what the fuck he is, because he smells like hundreds, if not thousands of humans, but he's one thing walking up that might not be super clear.
So that opens up like a whole realm of thoughts. Carl Jung, which I've been reading a lot lately, is the concept, the concept of the dragon. Yeah. And what the dragon is all predators. Right. It's tigers, snakes,
tigers,
fire,
unicorns, midgets.
Well, there's not unicorns.
Just kidding.
but there's bird. Everything that really was at one point maybe a predator to our ancestors. The tiger, cat, snake, bird, fire. And so it's just kind of like a sum of all predators.
So it's like an umbrella that covers all the predators. You take all the predators together and you put them together and they become a dragon.
Yeah. I saw this.
Because a dragon can fly. So it's kind of like a vulture, eagle, hawk. Can blow fire.
Well, just think of anything that would really have been a predator to us.
How come dragons blow fire like no other predators blow fire out of their mouths?
Just
today?
Fire was a form of a thing that was a danger to us.
Oh, I got you. So it's not even just like
it's just added into the danger thing. It's just the thing of all. It's danger. It's the archetype of danger. Okay. I saw in a YouTube clip of Jordan Peterson, the guy who gets all into these archetypes and stuff a lot. But he had dug up a cartoon comic, and the comic was of a cat, and the comic had drawn him and his wife moving out to the forest, and they move to the forest, and they hear a sound or something in the forest, and they're like, oh, that's nothing. And then they see the cat, and the cat is smelling everything, has this vision in its head looking at the forest, and the cat's freaked out. And the vision in its head is this bear, deer, squirrel, like all mixed together monster in its head. 'Cause it's looking at all the things it's smelling right now. And it's forming like a version of that in its head, and it's all monsters, and so that kind of goes in line with you saying that your dog saw all possible people coming to the door. Right?
Isn't that wild though? To I mean, for us, it would absolutely. I think for the average human, it would have to be a visual thing.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe not. Like you would hear stuff too, right? Like if a bunch of stuff was coming at you at the same time,
I think that's the
vision would hit you the hardest, but sounds might creep up first.
I think that's the real struggle of schizophrenics is that they actually have a lot of sensory stuff coming at them at once that they can't sort well. And
what a nightmare, man!
Yeah.
I've had to work. My main job is a nurse. I've worked in a bunch of different places as a nurse over the past 10 years, but during my clinical rotations when I was studying to be a nurse, I had to work in a mental health place for like 7 weeks, and it was all schizophrenic or drug-induced psychosis. And I don't think there's ever been a time in my life where I've been more sad. Like, it really is just so sad. Like, these people are not getting any better. There's no cure for it. You can kind of numb things with drugs, but they choose to numb it with drugs on their own. Usually
some can
these
learn
people,
to live with it better. Like
yeah, and there's different degrees of it, right? Like schizophrenia and like bipolarism, when you're diagnosed, if you stay on your medications, you do way better. You're more functional, but you miss certain aspects of the disease in a way, right? Like a bipolar person is going to miss the manic phases, right?
Yeah.
That's when they're creative and everything. So you put them on a mood stabilizer and they miss that. They don't feel the extremes ever, you know, like you and I, we get nervous once in a while and say, oh shit, but you go back to normal. They just, when they're on a mood stabilizer, they don't have those extremes anymore in any way, shape, or form, and they miss it, and so they stop taking their meds. Every time they stop taking their meds, they have like a psychotic episode, and every psychotic episode you have does more permanent damage. And so, you know, there's some schizophrenics that are more functional than others, and it's probably due, I would say, you know, don't quote me on it, but I would say it probably has a lot to do with the ones that stay on their meds more often than not. The ones that don't stay on their meds, or yeah, exactly. But how sad is that? Like, to go through the world and never be able to like sort out your senses. Like, your senses are just constantly fucking with you. Like, how terrifying would that be? Because we've all thought we heard something, thought we saw something, you know, and it just causes this like. Ugh.
So I'm not good with marijuana, as you know, and I've thought sometimes, because when I smoke it, I get overly paranoid, and I've thought sometimes that when I get to that super paranoid state, that it must be something a little bit like that. That I'm just having too many thoughts come at me at once to deal with them, to sort them out, I mean, it's probably not exactly schizophrenics. Like, I'm not hearing voices or anything like that, and that's not all schizophrenics either, but some of them do. And some of them like think the TV's talking to them and stuff like that. And in certain drug-induced states, you might be able to find out what that's like a little bit, you know what I mean?
Oh, I'm sure.
And, that's definitely for sure the feeling of not being able to sort out all that you're dealing with is part of why marijuana's, or getting too much marijuana's, tough on me, because it puts me in a state of thinking I'm not sorting my senses out well.
Right. See, I've never had something. well, I guess maybe once or twice in my whole life, you know, but I haven't done mushrooms in years. But there's been a handful of times where I did mushrooms years ago where I took like hero doses and I couldn't wait for it to end because I couldn't decipher like what was real or what wasn't real anymore. And I think that's like a real level of schizophrenia.
It's a panicky state.
Right.
Too.
And the silver lining in a situation like that for you is that if you can hang on to the one thought of like, oh, I ate mushrooms like a couple of hours ago, duh. Like this is going away. It's not going to stay forever.
For me, mushrooms
right?
is the opposite. Mushrooms gives me hyper focus. Like I can focus on a single thought.
Even on a hero dose though? Like
no, I mean the
one hero dose
I had.
There's microdosing, which is a whole different scenario. I'm talking like hero dose.
No,
you've lost all senses. You don't know.
Yeah, the one time I could say I hero dosed, I definitely hit like a pass out state, which I wasn't. It's not real pass out because I think I could like still hear the people in the room and stuff, but I definitely like had to close my eyes and went for a journey with my eyes closed and I wouldn't have been able to like open them for a little bit or anything like that. And that was like that's for sure different than the other doses, which is I was able to hyper focus on things from even my past.
I've been on those levels on mushrooms in the past when I used to do them, and
everything's about dosing, man. Even when
it's all about how much you take. It's just like alcohol. You drink 1 or 2 beers, you're happy, you're laughing. You drink too much, you're either going to turn into an asshole or have a nap. You know.
My weed paranoia is because I hang out with people who do smoke a lot of weed, and over the years, weed's just gotten better and better and better and better and better. And then
it's the cure for cancer now, Chris.
Yeah, and then I don't do it often enough, and then when I do it. They give me one of their doses or something, and then I'm off to I'd probably be fine if I just did like an itty bitty bit, and then, but
dosing's the key. I mean, and it's not just with that type of stuff. Look at like eating. Yeah. If you don't eat the right dose of food, you put on a bunch of weight. Your joints go to shit. You know, people eat too much sugar. They get fucking diabetes. It's all about like moderation.
That's the whole concept of. I mean, it's come up again a million times over, but that's the concept of all the way back to Aristotle, and then the Renaissance got really huge into the Renaissance man is the moderate man, the man who is good at everything but not over the top at anything, and they were hearkening back to like the Greek too, but. That just was suddenly a bunch of bullshit. I'm just talking about it cycles around in history, figuring out that like the best way to kind of go through life is, and being completely abstinent's pretty stupid too, I think.
Oh yeah, it's totally bad.
Yeah, I think if you haven't
because
had certain experiences or seen certain things,
you're ignoramus you've abstained from everything.
You've missed some of existence.
Right.
Bottom line is you've missed some of existence that we've seen.
Right.
You could see it too, but
I mean,
you're just not going to because you think it's like a brain rot thing or whatever.
There's some things you need to never experience because you just know deep down inside like that's not going to lead to anything good in any way, shape, or form, right?
Like what?
Like murder.
Oh yeah.
Like you don't want to experience murder. Like all you have to do is see like, holy shit, that person's family member got murdered. And
or you don't
look
want to
at
feel getting murdered.
Whoa, yeah, exactly. But I'm just saying, like the other things, like what you can eat, what you can say, what you can look at, you know, like all those things. Like I'm a firm believer that as long as you're not causing harm or perpetuating harm to other people, you can go through life and experience all manner of senses without feeling like.
There's been a lot built up over the years about addiction, and certainly you can get addicted to certain things. I've never got, to me this day, and I'm certain I've barked about this on Facebook before and gotten into fights, but the reason I'm so harsh about it is because it's true of me. I don't get addicted. I've tried all these different things. I haven't done anything very much at all.
There is one drug you're addicted to.
Sugar.
No? Oh, sugar and...
caffeine.
Caffeine.
Yeah, and that's
sugar is the gateway drug. In case you all didn't know, it is.
Yeah, but I'm definitely addicted to caffeine. I'm a Diet Coke drinker like crazy, I'm actually gonna try to give that up for Lent, just to for the heck of it, but which is coming up in a little bit.
You're not even Catholic.
Well, yeah, but I'm gonna be for 40 days.
Cool. So you're gonna give up your normal life on top of giving up?
No, I'm not
caffeine.
gonna be actually Catholic. It's just a fun time frame to jump on board with the thing. But the what was I saying? Oh, but those other drugs did not addict me. Like,
Right.
I didn't get addicted to them at all. Some people have. I know some. I mean, a lot of friends and stuff have a tough time with alcohol and stuff like that. That's never been my drug of choice, but I've definitely gotten into bad patterns with both caffeine and sugar. And,
Right.
And I will tell anybody to their face, like, that. Those have been the drugs, and I'm dead serious that sugar's a drug. And,
Oh, for sure it is.
just like I
It's
think
way addicting.
you shouldn't be up in somebody's face about drinking alcohol if they want to drink alcohol. You shouldn't be up in somebody's face about eating sugar either. You know what I mean?
Right, but if somebody's like throwing away their lives and turning into a total asshole
Like
when they're drinking
anything, if
alcohol,
it's
you
too
should
much.
confront them and be honest. But there's a lot of people that just drink
But
once in a
also, if
while and have
somebody's
a
being
good time,
an
be
asshole,
social.
throwing away their life drinking sugar, it's the same. Eating sugar, it's the
I
same
have to
thing.
have a lot of honest conversations with people about that shit at my work. Because like anytime I get a diabetic in for a pre-op assessment, I just tell them straight up.
Well,
Like, look,
what
buddy,
is it?
you know what happens if you don't switch up right now? Like, you're borderline diabetic right now. If you don't stop eating this shit and start exercising, you're going to be like insulin dependent diabetic.
Yeah.
And you're going to lose function in your kidneys. You might lose toes and have limbs amputated. You're not going to heal up as well. Your fucking kidneys are going to take a shit on you. You could possibly go blind from this shit, man. And like, I have that real conversation with them. Drive that shit home.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel good when I freaking tell them the truth, because I don't think we tell people the truth so much. And here we go. Here we come back to the truth again.
Yeah.
I think doctors like, hey, man, you can either diet or exercise, or we have this pill. And the pharmaceutical companies make a shit ton of money off these pills. Just take the pill. The pill's the easier thing to do.
People go to extremes with each one of them. Because, like, I don't think we should go banning sugar, just like you shouldn't go banning alcohol. Like,
you should
it basically is in Utah.
Education, man. Be honest.
But no matter what, any one of these hyperstimuli, which is all what those things are, is just some sort of hyperstimuli. It's just playing on some sort of function of our body at an extra level to give you an alternate feeling or an alternate state. Any one of them has the potential to become addictive and lead somebody down a bad road. That doesn't mean ban it. You know,
right, of course.
And I'm talking 100% equally, not in any way tongue-in-cheek, that yes, sugar and alcohol and cocaine and weed are all in that same, like, it's all just a hyperstimuli, and not one of them, it's almost completely arbitrary, like how we choose which ones.
I know, like, why is alcohol legal?
Barely in Utah.
No, it's legal. You can go liquor store.
Barely.
You can go liquor store and you can get any strength alcohol you want. You can buy as much of it as you want. But mushrooms, marijuana, freaking ayahuasca, any of these, like, because I look at drugs as like, there's drugs that dull the senses, and then there's ones that are more enlightening, right? Like, I think alcohol is dulling. I think opioids are dulling. Unfortunately, fortunately, however you want to look at it, at my work, working in the VA system, see the outcomes of a lifetime addiction of opioids and what opioids do to people in their lives. And for me, I'm like, I just seeing that, I have zero desire to even touch opioids in any way, shape, or form.
That's another one, man. I've watched a bunch of things on these different doctors saying that, like, the opioids are getting too bad of a rap, and they definitely can be a thing that can be helpful to certain people in certain situations, and they're definitely, like any one of these hyperstimuli, they're definitely a thing that can kill people.
In my mind, I look at, like, opioids are great for post-operative pain. For short periods of time.
I've been on opioids before in my life.
I've used them, and they are awesome for those situations.
Just like those other things, I so far, I haven't ever gotten, like, addicted to them.
Right.
But I do have my things, and for sure, opioids is a thing that people can get addicted to, sure.
Well, here's the other thing. It's not just the addiction that's the bad part about it, okay? So opioids, so like I've had shoulder surgery, I've had my tonsils out, I've had knee surgery, I've taken the opioids, I took them as prescribed, and I left it at that. When I was off of them, I was off of them.
They destroy systems.
But what they do, because we prescribe them for chronic pain, somebody who has chronic back pain, chronic neck pain. So this is your solution, is to take these opioids. And what opioids do is your body will actually produce more opioid receptors.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why you build like a tolerance to it, and then you have to take more and more and more. And then you're basically getting to the point where you're never going to get off these things. You get to that level. Or when you come in for surgery, you can't get on top of these people's pain. They got too many opioid receptors. You give them enough fentanyl, dilaudid, morphine that would fucking kill a full-grown elephant, and they're just still like
in pain.
Oh my God, And not to mention that, like, the other thing with opioids is they cause respiratory depression. Uh-huh. People die from taking too much of these things all the fucking time.
Yeah.
It's terrible. Like, and people die from drinking too much alcohol, but they're not dropping dead from drinking too much alcohol like people are dropping dead from taking too much opioids. Mm-hmm. It's a different level. Opioids and heroin, I mean, they're all kind of like in that same category. Whereas there's other options for chronic pain, but they're fucking illegal across the whole entire United States.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have a doctor at my work, an anesthesiologist. I'm not going to say his name or anything like that, but very upstanding, like Christian fellow. And when we started talking about the implementation of THC and cannabinoids in the medical field, he's like, it's a way better solution for chronic pain than opioids are. And there's like basically no risk. Like nobody's dying from this stuff. They can they can take as much as they want. They're not going to OD and die.
It doesn't kill receptors.
No, and it doesn't change your anatomy as a human being. Like it basically you can quit it and you don't go through withdrawals. And what's crazy, man, is there's not a lot of drugs that you can withdraw from and die. Mm-hmm. Alcohol is one of them. Mm-hmm. It's one of the only drugs, I think. We've had arguments in the past that maybe not heroin. I'd have to look at it. But most drugs, when you go through a withdrawal, you're not going to die on a withdrawal. But alcohol, people fucking die withdrawing from alcohol all the time.
Yeah.
So I just don't understand, like, why? With all of it. It's got to be just money. Or maybe they don't like people taking enlightening drugs that make them think positively or make them want to change their life or see something ugly in the mirror and want to make a difference. I don't know, man. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, this was the conspiracy stuff I was going to get into.
Shit.
No, I think it's money. I mean, it's for sure that there's like some of the biggest lobbyists behind pushing Jeff Sessions to keep marijuana illegal and all that stuff are the alcohol and cigarette lobby. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Each drug kind of thinks they want to become like
a
corner on the market. And, and then of course there's actual prescribed drugs in on that lobby too. You know what I mean? And it's for sure a money thing.
You know what cracks me up, man? Everybody's on drugs.
Oh yeah.
Everybody, whether it's caffeine, whether it's sugar, whether it's everybody's getting their fix on something.
Well, the thing is like I've gotten to points in my mind too, especially over the years of competing and getting into really weird headspaces for going for long periods of time without certain foods and without certain things, and like how much it can affect your mood. Like you were talking about, it got hard to be my friend or whatever. Like there's a level that I start to think like this is all biochemical in a weird way. This protein, carb, and this chicken is a way to keep the hallucination of reality going too.
Right.
And you don't get enough fat over enough period of time, and stuff gets wonky, and you're kind of like, man, in a weird way, fat, what you need for living, is a drug too in a weird way, because it turns into a biochemical reaction that affects your nervous system, that affects your brain, that affects your
dude, just being low vitamin D can make you like depressed as shit, man.
For sure.
That's just a fucking vitamin.
But then if you're taking any sort of antidepressant, that's just playing on your biochemistry too.
Well, like why are antidepressants legal and these other things are illegal?
But that's the other thing too that I realized over the years of trying different drugs, and I haven't tried that many. Just pretty much just those organic ones, you know, the mushrooms and the weed and
Planet
alcohol.
Earth trying to talk to you, man.
Yeah. But I also, one of the reasons I don't get addicted to them is because after a minute, if I do them a bunch of times or too many times, I'll stop and go like, this is just another state of reality.
Right.
And why is it that different than sober?
Right.
It's different. It's a different level.
Right.
It's a different place, but is this one better than that one? I mean, they're both just I think a lot of people, especially the mushrooms, I think a lot of people should see that other reality.
Right.
But
because you become a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? Critical about things you may or may not have seen when you were sober.
Oh,
like
for sure.
some people really think they've seen ghosts and they've talked to somebody on the afterlife, whatever. But if you've taken mushrooms once, you know, like, whoa, your brain and the little chemicals in there can make you can see all sorts of stuff. And even like people who are just like sleep deprived or gone through like a really traumatic event can hallucinate and see stuff. But if you don't know that like your brain can do that, you're just going to think that's like some out of body experience.
One of the problems with weed and mushrooms is that they're Schedule I drugs. So we haven't been able to study them very hard because part of being Schedule I means that we can't study them, you know what I mean?
And cocaine's a Schedule II.
Yeah, and I don't know if mushrooms is a Schedule I, but people haven't done very many studies on them. I know John Hopkins is trying to do some studies on them, but we could know a lot better about this stuff. But I've heard a lot of the ideas of what mushrooms is actually dropping of filters that you're filtering out.
Oh, really?
So there's all these kind of colors and perceptions and things kind of happening around you, and even kind of just like the wave movements and stuff is just like kind of how your perceptions take in the movements of the world, and that the world is in a weird way in movement, and you take the mushrooms and it drops the filters, it drops the ways that you narrow it down to something understandable to you.
What was that guy's name that was on Joe Rogan like within the past few months?
Oh, I forgot his name.
The mushroom guy.
Yeah.
Oh my God, what the hell was his name?
I know who you're talking about, but
it was a good episode. It was really, really cool. But he was talking about, I think it was him. There's been a couple of episodes on Joe Rogan where we've had like people on talking about mushrooms and stuff, but they were talking about in Silicon Valley that most of those guys are microdosing mushrooms, and that's how they're able to like program and like write the code for all this crazy shit that we're interacting with on a daily basis. Like most of it wouldn't happen if they weren't like under the influence of microdosing on psilocybin.
I think I heard the DNA helix was come up with on.
They were microdosing LSD. Yeah, but like some things you have to let down the filters that make you think, oh, everything has to fit within these laws that I know. Mm-hmm. And like when you can let go of those things, sometimes you can like figure out that, all this stuff isn't like tied down or tethered down to like these particular
I think it's
rules.
all changing your biochemistry of how you're filtering all the perceptions we're capable of taking in this cosmos, you know what I mean? But each one of those drugs in a weird way is kind of just an altering of your perceptions. It's just an altering of that's why it's like an alternate reality. And I think even sometimes like alcohol, you'll drop some inhibition and you'll get more friendly with people and you'll be able to talk better with some people and all that stuff. And that's I sometimes think people are more addicted
go to bed with people you wouldn't normally go to bed with.
But I think I don't actually know this is true. I know this is true. It's coming from my anecdotal experience, but I'm sure that's true. Some people are more addicted rather than to the chemistry of alcohol. They're addicted to who they become on alcohol.
Right.
They're addicted to being more open and friendly.
But some people turn into raging mean
some people do too,
man.
But I'm saying some people are like I become more gregarious and more open to talking to people and more calm with myself in social situations thanks to alcohol, and that's actually more what I'm into than even just the feeling or the
right.
You know, but I think every one of those things are kind of just a different momentary way. But then people get addicted because sometimes they want to just live in those other realities, but they're all just different ways to perceive the world for a little bit. And it's sometimes, even though there's risk, anything can become addictive. But it's sometimes sad to think some people go through this life not seeing the different.
Right. And don't you think certain like ideologies can also change a person's perspective? Like if you're just raised like super religious in any religion, it doesn't have to be Christian, it could be any one of them, that you're basically, your perspective of the world is that. Like I feel sorry for those people too. Like that's almost like a drug that clouds your mind. Like nothing that doesn't fit into this like prescribed reality or perception that we've like given you, you just ignore it.
Yeah, it for sure can change, and it for sure can get altered and change the whole world for you. And probably most everybody goes through that in their life at some point or another. But yeah, that for sure can happen. It's a whole other area where you start getting into what's true and what isn't true. But
sorry, dogs just ran in the room.
Yeah. But because I mean, so many of those things are arguing about what's the truth of reality, and
but you're denying other things in reality that are really there, right?
Every one of them has to deny the other ones a little bit on some level. That's why it's so much of a war of ideas or a battle. But anybody who gets fully bought up into any one of them, for sure, their perception of the world completely changes. I've been watching lately because I try to listen to a lot of different sides in news and social media craziness nowadays, and so many people over time have gotten more and more like locked into their own little echo chambers, and sometimes I just watch and listen. And lately I've been listening to some people who, some are men's rights activists and then some are feminists, and it's funny to me sometimes how they have almost the exact same sentences, just reverse the words. You know what I mean?
Shit. Like, yeah.
Like the feminists will call it an androcentric society, and then the men's rights activists will call it a gynocentric society, which is just
sort of just like basically.
And then the sentences are the same. Yeah, and that's of course not across the board, but like you just see little things like that where you guys, I mean, those are direct opposites. You guys think the world's centered around women. You guys think the world's centered around men.
Which is dishonest.
Yeah.
That's not having an honest, open discussion about anything. You're just basically making some fucking claim.
Because the truth is it's centered around both of us.
Yeah. if you're on the extremes of either side, yeah, you're going to buy into that bullshit. But I don't think all of them do they?
Oh, well, I mean, no ideology is a complete monolith, but they try to be. They try to completely say that this is the one true belief of our ideology.
Right.
But then you start to have factioning off ideologies within ideologies, and everybody's trying to come up with the grand unifying truth of the world, and
what if there
nobody
isn't
has
one?
it?
What
Nobody
if there
has it
isn't
yet.
one?
Well, maybe the answer
what
is
if
you
it
got to
all
know
is
all of
just
them a little
whatever
bit.
your perspective really is, whatever your reality is that you choose is what the world is. I mean, who the hell even knows? Because if you think about
you postmodernist.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying like your reality and the way you view the world is completely different than somebody who lives in a different country, who lives in a,
the way I view the world's completely different than you.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, we probably are more in line than somebody in a different country or with a different religion, for sure. And
so who's right and who's wrong on the way they view the world?
The scientists. Well, I'm just kidding. Because they have a whole thing too, where the world's just empirical truth, and morality is a whole area that but scientists can't really get into, because they're just getting into, because their realm is empirical data, and there's been a lot of people trying to jump the gap of making it so scientists can also be moralists or tell us
Explain empirical data.
Not
everybody's going to know what those big words mean.
Your five senses and what you can examine and repeat based off of scientific experiments in the world. So science is all set up about, like physics or what's actually happening, what chemistry, what there is and isn't on the earth empirically means just that can be sensed, can not just your five senses, because you can also
and you can create experiments and recreate
and you
them,
can create
so
machines
other people
and
can use their
tools.
five senses to be like, this is actually
And you can
working or not
create
working.
machines and tools that are better than the human five senses too.
Right.
But it's all just testing of what there is, what there is out there.
Mm-hmm.
David Hume, I think a Scottish philosopher back in the 1700s, talked about, I don't know if he's the one who came up with the word empiricism or not, but he talked about how you can't jump the is-ought gap, which is science is telling you empirically what is. There is this, there is this, there is this. So like an is like the earth goes around the sun, and, and you can't use science to jump into an ought and say the earth ought to go around the sun,
Right.
Or just to say something better of like, sugar can make you fat, but science, well, some people are trying to make the argument science can say you ought not to eat so much sugar because it might kill you or something like that.
Right.
But if you really break it down, science can't really tell you an ought. It can't really say you ought to do this, because like why should I not kill myself? Science can't really give you that answer. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's an endless truth argument between maybe what you might call pragmatists and scientists, which the pragmatists or moralists, religions, are trying to take over the realm of oughts, and the scientists, empiricists, are running the world of ises and what.
But they're kind of like the yin and the yang, right? Like they're both kind of necessary to a degree,
for sure,
right?
For sure they're necessary. I mean, I don't think you can live
It's the extremes.
a world of complete ises. I mean, that'd be
right.
And the problem, if you really break down into what science can do or not, like it really is not supposed to jump into telling oughts at all, but there's been people trying to do that, to make it so science can, but science can really only inform the oughts. It can't really be the ought, and that's what you might have heard it, or other people might have heard it. There was a giant argument between Sam Harris and Jordan Peterson, and they were arguing about truth. What is truth?
Mm-hmm.
And strangely enough, a lot of people nowadays who've become more atheist than they used to think that truth is only the science, it's only the empirical,
Mm-hmm.
And Peterson's argument is that the word truth is older than science.
Right.
And the word truth really has a lot to do with what's beautiful. Beautiful can be truth.
Mm-hmm.
What's prudent can be truth. What's going to help you survive and help generations survive can be truth, even if
there's no scientific backing behind it.
Yeah, or even if that truth is false, in the sense of what they got into that argument about is, according to the pragmatists, like dropping an atom bomb that destroys the whole world is untrue,
mm-hmm.
because we would all be dead, you
right.
know? So for a pragmatist, that goes against what the traditional word of true means, because it's killing all of us. Like, true is doing the thing that keeps us going and all alive and better. So it's a different, almost, it's a bit of a semantic look at the word truth,
mm-hmm.
Whereas to the Sam Harris empiricist is like, no, that's false, that it's not true. It's true. We all died.
Right.
That's just empirically true. We could all die.
Right.
And that's the thing that they argued around for 2 different podcasts, honestly. And it's really hard to follow.
Listen to those. They're pretty intense.
they're intense, and then you hear a lot of people kind of like jump down Jordan Peterson's throat, like, how dare you, sir? And it's so dumb. It sounds so dumb, but you don't understand the pragmatism of the argument from the point of like a William James style pragmatism, which is a bunch of bullshit philosophy. But the word true is not so easily defined,
right?
Which is what we started out,
right?
You know, because sometimes you could think you're totally being true and you're not, you know, and sometimes you're lying right out your teeth and you think you aren't.
And to yourself.
Yeah, for sure.
So how do we get around that? Just be honest.
Well, you're gonna lie again.
I'm never lying again.
I'm gonna lie again. I'm gonna lie to myself again.
Try to be more open and honest. I mean, what's the goal?
I think you just keep trying to do it and keep trying to do better and keep trying to be as real as you can be.
But there's a lot of reasons people aren't honest.
Oh, for sure.
Like even legal reasons. Like
sure.
sometimes you can't talk about what you want to say, or you're too afraid that you're going to offend. Like there's all sorts of things coming into laws coming down the pipes right now that make people more and more afraid to just be themselves. And it's pretty sad, man.
But
I
beyond
don't like
that,
it.
for sure, sometimes it's prudent to tell a white lie to somebody about, like somebody at your work asks you something that would hurt their feelings or something.
Do you like me? Yep. You're one of my favorite people.
I don't get it because like that's actually bit me in the butt in my life. You know what I mean? Like when I was in high school,
are you mad at me?
I had a couple bonky, stalkery girls that I was not able to get them to leave me alone because I just wouldn't be directive. So I don't like you. Leave me alone. You know. And,
there's a few people I work with that have reached the magical age of like not giving a shit, and I look forward to that. Like I don't want to get there right away because I feel pretty good. I'm like 40, you know, working out, doing all the things I love to do. But there's some golden gems, man. There's some like real awesome shit about being a certain age because you can kind of just say whatever the fuck you want. And what are we gonna do with you? You're 65, 70 years old. You're fucking racist. You're telling some woman you want to touch her boobs, whatever. Like, you can just get away with anything when you reach a certain age.
Nowadays, they'll lock you up.
No, I'm just kidding. But no, there's a guy I work with who he doesn't have to work there. He works there for the social interaction. That's why he comes to work every day. But he should have retired a lot of years ago. But fuck, man, he can just get away with whatever he wants, say whatever he wants, and everybody just loves the hell out of him because it's like, that's that guy.
You gotta realize that to a lot of people, that's who Donald Trump is. You know? Like they think he's.
You always gotta rain on my parade.
But a lot of people think he's just the guy who just says it like he thinks it, and that's what's great about him. You know?
Yeah, but there's a big difference between the guy I work with who's like an orderly and somebody who's running the United States of America. They're kind of two different things. Yes.
I'll tell you right now.
But you can't tell me that Trump isn't having the time of his life.
But I'm sure it's just extremely stressful, but then I'm sure sometimes too he's laughing his ass off, you know.
Yeah, and he doesn't give a shit.
But that's one of the things, what a lot of people who are totally confused about why Donald Trump got elected, they don't understand that some of it is truth, and it's not truth of him telling not lies.
Right.
It's the truth of he says what he's thinking.
Right.
You know, and
denies it 5 minutes later.
But even then, he's thinking that, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like in the sense of like an old codger, you know, or whatever.
He
like
suffers
the guy
from
at your work.
short-term memory loss.
Not just that. I'm just saying that like he doesn't care to play a PR game, you know?
Mm-hmm.
He just says what's in his dumb brain, if it's different in 5 minutes or not. And to so many people in the U.S., that's such the opposite of every politician that they've ever gotten for so long, that they just like that. They just like the truth of him blabbing whatever comes to his dumb head, you know? Even if it's lies, to them that's a truth. He's blabbing what comes to his dumb head. And,
that makes sense.
And they like that. And they like somebody not afraid to do that, because it's become more and more and more difficult to dare to just say whatever dumb thing comes to your head.
Yeah, I don't know how he's pulling it off.
Yeah.
Because like the rest of the media, everybody's tiptoeing around what you can and you can't say like 24/7, and he's just dropping whatever.
But that's actually the trick. The people don't understand that what the trick is I graduated. I have an undergraduate in PR, and it's from forever. It's from before social media, and I made the joke before that that's like having like a computer science degree from 1980 or something like that. But one of the huge concepts of PR 15, almost 20 years ago now, was that if you just own your stuff and apologize and tell people you'll do better, that it makes everything better and fine. It was almost like a degree in apologizing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I think the corner's turned on that. I think it's gotten to a point where apologizing is trouble, you know?
Right.
And the reason why Donald Trump doesn't get into the crap that the other people get into is he never apologizes. Like
he's just dodging all those bullets.
The way he dodges them is by not apologizing. Yeah, because nowadays apologies
mean what you say what you mean.
Yeah, well, or also apologies are just kind of like seen as something to pounce on and use against you. You know? Yeah, he's dumb. He's dumb as crap. He says dumb stuff, and but I think people like that. I think people like that. A lot of people saw him as like just throwing a grenade into a pack of lies, a pack of lying wolves. And that's what they saw. That's why they did it. And so many people on the other side are, whoa, how did this happen? How did this happen? They're still a year later. How did this happen? They start crying. And like, well, how about you stop lying and go listen to the other side?
Right.
Because you're lying, saying that it's impossible to figure out how this happened. No, you're sticking to your stupid echo chamber.
Yeah.
And
should always listen to people as if they know something you don't.
Yeah, but that's not saying that like they have some sort of smarts that they don't, but they have an answer for why they voted for
absolutely.
that guy.
And if you can understand the why, then you can like let go of a little bit of stress, right?
Maybe, or even figure out how
to have a little bit of empathy. Like you don't have to agree, but you can be like a little bit more
and
empathetic.
Not think they're horrible aliens who should die.
Yeah, because if you run around thinking you're right and everybody else is wrong, you still got to live with the people that you think are wrong, or they got to live with you.
It's tougher to do that. Yeah, but that's also kind of one of the things. Like you see the abyss between the two competing sides who are saying the exact opposite thing and saying this is the truth of reality, and it's the exact opposite. And that's the gap between those two are getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and partially because they're not listening to each other or being honest or ever willing to concede one little thing to the other side. And without a doubt, you can learn from people why they're thinking a certain way. And that will help you. If you want them to stop voting for a Trump or to beat a Trump, you should learn why they voted for a Trump. Right. And so many people think they know because NPR said why. NPR has their head so far up their ass about what. Like I every time I listen to it lately, I'm like, where are you guys pulling these ideas or thoughts from? Like you aren't listening to the other side at all, but you guys will announce why these people voted for Trump. And you didn't listen to or talk to any one of those people. It's not some horrid thing that you're announcing it out to be. Like it's because they were white people and they really identified with the whiteness of sure, there was a few people like that, but like if you think you know why people voted for Trump because you listen to NPR, you're a dipshit.
It's true. You gotta get the info from the horse's mouth, man.
For sure. And if you don't figure out how the other people see stuff and what's true to them, you're not going to be able to beat them. Or
why do you need to beat them though? You still have to live.
They
with
want to beat them.
If there's winners and losers, you still have to live with the losers, or you have to live with the winners. So why can't you figure out a way to compromise? Nobody has to lose entirely, and nobody has to win entirely.
Well, but in that scenario, you do have to win an election, no? Like, people want Trump out in 3 years, 2 years, 3 years.
Yeah, but what if you could kind of get to the point of like, well, that guy might be running as a Democrat, but he's actually pretty close to like being a Republican too. He's like good in the middle. Like, why do you have to vote for extremes?
There for sure could be a better thing, but that's also one of the reasons they lost.
I mean, have you hated every Republican president? Have you hated every Democratic president?
No. But one of the reasons they lost is because maybe who they were running against, the person was saying some opposite extremes.
Right.
And maybe you shouldn't go to opposite extremes. Maybe there should be a middle and a Renaissance president, somebody who's a moderate about all the things and is able to, going back to Peterson, what he says is like everything is, society and culture is like a big giant snake that we're riding, and the answer to riding a big snake or surfing or riding anything like that is sometimes lean right and sometimes lean left. It doesn't mean just being always centrist. It doesn't mean being always rightist, being always leftist. It means kind of push back on the thing that's getting nutty, because each one of it gets extreme and nutty, you know.
Oh, absolutely.
And it does not one of them has the whole truth.
Nope.
They need each other, you know. And just like I don't have the whole truth. Do you?
If I say yes, does that make me sound like an asshole?
The only way
No, I don't. The smartest man in the world is the man who knows nothing.
Is that a real saying?
I think I've heard it somewhere, but it's true. If you think you know everything, you stop learning, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so if you always just assume you don't know anything, you're the smartest man in the world. You're always going to be learning.
That is true. There's some stuff that I don't want to learn.
Patience.
No, I can learn stuff like
compromise,
big abstract ideas like that. But every once in a while, you're like, here's a big, field of something technical, and I'm like, I don't want to learn that. I should learn that. I don't want to learn that.
No, it's all good.
Wow.
I got so much time to live, and I don't want to waste it.
I want to waste some of it. Sometimes wasting, sometimes fun or necessary.
Indeed.
But I don't want to, in general, waste a ton of it. But I do think over time that the first key to trying to get stuff better or right or going in a positive direction is in a level of truth and honesty in all the things that you're trying to do or not, and as best as you can, because you can't be perfectly honest, but
something to strive for.
Yeah, you should always kind of stop and say, am I lying to myself right here on something, or am I being honest about something right here myself? And I just recently had another breakup, and part of that was once again going, I'm lying to myself about something here,
Mm-hmm.
And I think getting anything right is kind of got an element of getting honest, especially being in a band and making music. You got to be honest about what's working, what's not working, and that's hard to do in a band. A lot of people wonder why bands break up so much, and they don't realize there's a lot of negotiating about how to play a single song, let alone everything else.
Mm-hmm.
So, what's going to be your next lie? What do you think? Predict it.
One more beer, probably be fine. I won't get a hangover if I just have one more beer.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that's a lie.
Mine's
I tell
gonna
myself
be like,
often.
Mine's going to be, I can probably get that chick.
All right. Thanks for listening.
Yeah.
If you enjoyed this episode of The Swinging Lights, take a moment and swing over to iTunes and just give us 5 stars. You can write whatever you want in the comments, call us a couple of douche canoes, we don't care. If you don't like the podcast, just unsubscribe. But iTunes has its rating system, and this is how it works, and giving us 5 stars will help us more than anything else on the business end of things. Thanks for listening.
Sick that I feel so relieved. This one treated me like a dream. Impatient, wide-eyed, tell me you're kidding. She fell for simple smoke screen.